Tuesday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on this Tuesday night, the 19th day of March 2024. We have not done one of these in a long time, but we're going to be doing it tonight. We've not just been with you by ourselves. We've usually had guests on. I do want to announce we're going to have a show Thursday night. It'll be late. I've got a pre-recorded interview with Ruth Goodenheim, and I was going to air it tonight, and I got to thinking about it. I wanted to come on and talk to you tonight. Magdalene won't be with me tonight. We sort of chatted before the show by text, and I asked her, I said, you feel like we need to go on tonight since everything's been wrapped up? And she's wanting to take a night off. There's no surprises, and we're going to talk about the election. Tonight is actually Super Tuesday, too. A lot of the states are going to vote tonight, but really it's no really need to anymore because of the at least on the presidential side, there's an election in Ohio we're going to be talking about here in a minute that's important. As Marino, the mega candidate, destroyed the established candidate in Dolan, and that seems to be the story tonight going on in the country, that the mega candidates are doing quite well, the establishment candidates are not. I've always said this, folks, about elections. They matter. It's not just about the presidential race. I think people don't participate in these primaries like we should. And I have preached and preached and preached and preached, go vote. Even in your primaries, your local elections are important. I remember Tamara Lee telling me something 5 years ago at the onset of this show. I never will forget it. We had just probably been on the air probably 6 to 8 months, and she came on for the first time. We need to get Tamara back, actually, and talk to her in quite a while. But she told me something one night. She said, your swamp is in your backyard. And she said, Chris, she said, if people would understand that if they can get the swamp out of the backyard, then they can stop the swamp from getting to D.C. And that's true. I mean, and that is absolutely the truth. And we're going to, I'll say this like this. A lot of times we complain about the direction of the Republican Party. I'd never vote Democrat in a million years. I just wouldn't. I'm an independent voter. I'm registered independent. I stopped being officially a Republican years ago. But I would never see any scenario where I would vote Democrat strictly because of the abortion platform that the Democrats carry. And you can call me narrow-minded about that, and a lot of people do, because they feel like that life is not the only issue that, it matters. But it does matter. And so forth. But I want to just say it, that in these primaries, it's where the heart and the soul and the change comes at the top of these Republican rhino tickets. The demagogues, and what is a demagogue? A demagogue is a candidate that stays in office for term after term after term, and they literally become a political tyrant. In their districts, usually nobody runs against them. Nobody has the money to run against them. They become entrenched in D.C. They run policy for decades. They run the country to the ground. And they literally become entrenched in our society and our political atmosphere to the point that the nation is strangled and choked by that. And it's sad that we have reached that point in America. And by the way, folks, no questions right now. We will take questions at the end. We'll interact with you at the end. I got some things to say tonight at the beginning. I'm just asking you to listen to me right now. We'll get to some thoughts and questions later. But the primaries are where we change course if we don't like the status quo of the Republican Party or the Independent Party or whatever. I have had mixed feelings through the years about these third-party runs and these third parties. I know that both the Democrats and the Republicans have run the country for many a year too, and there's always been this talk that we need a viable third party. And while I tend to agree with that, I know that the reality of it is the money and the power and the prestige of that it's going to be hard to break. And that's why I think President Trump has avoided a third-party run, that he has tried to run as a Republican. Even though he doesn't espouse a lot of the Republican beliefs, he at least has got a majority of the conservative beliefs of the Republican Party. And his brand of republicanism is what has irritated the establishment on both sides, but it has irritated the establishment on the Republican side as well. And that was tested tonight in Ohio when a established Republican, Tim Dolan, come up against Marino. I got to read this article tonight. I'm not going to do this right now, but I'm going to just put this website update up over this article here because we're going to look at the election results. But I want to read the Breitbart story tonight that's coming out of Ohio. It's a huge win, absolutely huge win. Bernie Moreno looks like he is doing quite well right now. Moreno's been running a campaign focused on deporting illegal aliens who entered the country during the Democrat Joe Biden's administration, opposing sending more tax dollars to Ukraine. And Dolan has actually a globalist establishment who supports more Ukraine aid. And he's been taking funding from leftist sources, including accepting cash from Mark Zuckerberg, of all places, to run elections in Ohio, and accepting donations from LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman. Moreno stands apart from that. And by all indications tonight, this story was breaking earlier this afternoon or morning, but it's given us the thing. But as of 9:15, Senate GOP Mitch McConnell, that's just a few minutes ago, called Moreno and said that the Senate Leadership Fund congratulates Bernie Moreno on a hard-fought victory in the Ohio Senate Republican primary. SLF President Stephen Law, Republicans are united behind Bernie and are committed to defeating the left-wing politician Sherrod Brown this November. Sherrod Brown is a piece of turd, honestly. We know Bernie will run an aggressive campaign to win, and Moreno is who Ohio needs. And I'm not from Ohio, but I've spent some time there. I lived there for about 6 months. It's a beautiful state. I've got some dear friends there. I almost considered it a second home at one time. It's a beautiful state, and we've got family up there. And all I can tell you, Ohioans, get behind Bernie Moreno, and it's a good win tonight. It is a slap. It is basically a thank you, and I'm saying thank you instead of the other word I want to say. Where's my brother when I need him? It's a thank you to the establishment of the Republican Party tonight. And Ohioans, you did good. I'm proud of you. I'm truly mean this. You did right. You did the right thing. You picked the right man. And if Ohio can do it, the rest of this freaking country can do it. The rest of this freaking country can do it. We're too lazy for our own good, folks. We sit at home at these elections. We sit at home in these primaries, and I don't mean to start fussing. I'm not fussing at you tonight, but I'm saying this to encourage you. We complain about the situation in the country, and yet people still won't get out and vote. Still won't get out and vote. And you're not going to change a thing unless you participate in the election process from start to finish. And the primaries are just as important, if not more important, than the general election, because this is the thing. if Dolan would have won tonight, and he's a piece of crap, he is, politically at least. In the general election, if you're in Ohio, you would have had no choice but to vote for Dolan, because the Democrat would have been far worse than him. But you would have got basically the same thing, but the balance of power. And you say, why is it important that I vote for these rhinos in the general? Well, because of the balance of power. A bad Republican is better than a good Democrat, because the way that the balance of power sits in the Senate, they would have the power to either veto, if it's a Democrat president, bad decisions by him, or by reverse, if it's a Republican president in office, then he would have power in the Senate to pass his agenda, and the House. So this is why primaries are important. It's better to have a good Republican. And the way you get good Republicans and good candidates is get them in through the primary system. And I know that it's hard, folks. I'm not saying, look, I had the privilege of helping a good friend of mine who's not been doing well physically over the last few years, and he ran for governor here in Tennessee as an independent candidate. He didn't have a prayer in hell. He just didn't have a prayer in hell. But he made a good run for it, and we had a good time, and I learned a lot helping him. I was his campaign manager, and I knew we didn't have a prayer in hell, but we had a lot of fun out there, mixing it up with the big boys. And I felt like he finished. I mean, there was like 25 other independent candidates out there, and he finished first among the independents. But he didn't place too bad in the overall view of the state. I felt like the number of votes he got was pretty impressive for an independent candidate. And but one thing I learned about this business called politics, it's a nasty, 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 good old boys business. I've always known that. And we, the people, have a voice in that. And these primaries are important. And that's why tonight was important in Ohio. Ohio, I salute you. But the job is only half done. We got to get Marino in the Senate. And Sherrod Brown's political career needs to end. It needs to end this November. That's how we change things in America. And I'm very grieved tonight. I was telling James today, did he not, James Akers, do a good job last night? He was excellent, wasn't he? I love that man. He's a good man. He's a good friend. He's become a great friend to the show. He's become a great friend to me, Brad Johnson, him both. And can't wait to meet him in person. But he hit a home run last night about the things relating to Israel. Ruth and I are going to talk more about that Thursday night. Great interview. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be some powerful stuff. And she's got a lot to say about the situation going on over there, and it's wise. Purim is this upcoming weekend, and it really is prophetic, a prophetic time right now in the nation, and it's very serious. I wanted to, before I interact with you for a few minutes tonight, I want to read an article to you because I really came on here tonight. I wasn't sure if Magdalene was coming on. I had reached out to a few other people, and they are not able to come on tonight. And anyway, we're grateful for you being here with us tonight. But we titled the show tonight, "The Loss of America's Soul, Spirit, and Morale." I remember being I guess I would have been a sophomore in high school in 1980. And I remember the Carter days. I was a kid. I didn't understand politics then, but even as a sophomore in high school, I knew this country sucked. The country sucked. Mom and Daddy were struggling financially. Gas was, $5, $6 a gallon. Long lines at the gas station, grocery store. The oil embargo of the Arabs had pushed America to the brink of bankruptcy. Carter had been humiliated in Iran. The country was suffering. Riots were in the street, just like what's going on tonight. But probably it's worse tonight than it was even in 1980. But the country was in the same boat. We were in the same exact boat that we're in now. We're just in a worse boat now than we were then. But a little hockey team in Lake Placid, New York in February. And this would have been 44 years ago, last month in February. Went up against a juggernaut of the Soviet Union. The Soviets were embarrassing us. They had invaded Afghanistan. They had told Carter to blank off, didn't care what Carter said or did. And Carter threatened everything under the sun. The Soviets said, piss on you, and they did what they wanted to do. Now, they got bogged down in Afghanistan and lost because they underestimated the Afghanis. But America stood powerless to watch the Soviets basically expand their empire during the Carter years like they had never expanded it. And I remember that hockey game, and I remember sitting in my dad's study that night, that Saturday night, when the local TV came on 11 o'clock. And it's rare that you open a newscast with a sports story. But, I mean, it was like an earthquake that was felt in this nation. And it restored. Those boys will probably never understand. I've listened to some of them being interviewed through the years, and a few of them did. A few of them do now. They didn't then as young kids, but they understand now the impact of that hockey game when America beat the Soviets 4-3 and changed the course of our track, our arc, I guess you could say, our track, where it was going downhill fast and sinking like a Titanic ship. It was going up. Faith was at an all-time low. Morale was at an all-time low. America had lost its soul. It just seemed like we didn't have any knowledge of where we were going. Just like tonight, to be frank with you. But that little hockey team took us on a course, and Reagan was elected that fall in November. And he restored America back to its strength in 8 years. It took him a long time to do it, and he had some issues. Reagan wasn't perfect. Bush Sr. sure wasn't perfect. The country got tired of the trajectory. We put Clinton in office. Clinton took us right back down the toilet for 8 years. There were some moments in Clinton's presidency that he tried to reach out and be a moderate, but he was always pulled to the left. Country got tired of him. Picked Bush Sr., who governed the country for 8 years, and he wasn't perfect. And he did a lot of things that wasn't right, got us into Iraq. I've always felt the Afghanistan situation was probably justified, and but we didn't need to stay in Afghanistan as long as we did, but we sure as hell didn't need to stay in Iraq as long as we did. We should have went over there and done what we were supposed to do and get home, but we didn't. We tried to nation build, and it led, that nation building process in Katrina made the country so disgusted with the Republicans that we put another individual in office in 2008 called Barack Obama. And you know what the history of his was. 2 terms. The Republicans, because of the primary situation, put 2 losers up against him, John McCain and Mitt Romney, who were probably working with him to win. And country got sick of Obama, sick of Clinton, and in 2016, the nation elected President Trump. I'm not going to sit here tonight and try to explain 2020 to you. I can't. You would have thought the country would have enjoyed the prosperity under President Trump, but there were forces that were committed to seeing him defeated. And whether you believe the election was stolen or not, the reality of it is that Joe Biden got elected in November, and he is the current president. I don't want to start drawing fire tonight and drawing swords about the QAnon movement. Trump has never been the president in hiding, running the country from Mar-a-Lago. The White Hats have not been in charge. Joe Biden's not a clone. There's a lot of other crazy stuff that has been circulating for 4 years now, 5 years, or however long it's been circulating, and none of it's been true. Trump didn't sign some emergency order to revert us back to the 17th century amendment or whatever it was called. I even know at this point what these people were believing. But the bottom line is, as my dear friend Chris Altman told me one day, and we were talking about this white hat, black hat thing, if the white hats are in charge of this nation tonight, folks, the white hats just plain suck. But can I just be brutally honest with you? If President Trump is in charge of this country, why the hell would we want to reelect him and let this country keep sucking? the way it is if he's in charge. He's never been in charge. He has been a president in waiting. He's running for re-election. It's nothing against Trump, but reality needs to kick in, and we've had a big need for that among people's thinking. And we just have, it's been at a premium. Common freaking sense has been at a premium. But anyway, we're facing a choice again in November. And this nation has been in the absolute worst shape it's ever been in the last 4 years than we have ever been. I would always think, as I've looked back on my time in understanding elections, that Carter's 4 years was the worst, but it is nothing. It is nothing compared to the peril and the danger that this nation sits in tonight from this administration. We are as close to communism. We are already in socialism, but we are as close to communism as we've ever been. We are as close to a Gestapo state as we've ever been. We are close to an invasion like we've never been, folks. This illegal immigration, this illegal alien situation is a flat-out invasion. There's no other way to describe it, and it's been done deliberately. You know, this is a McFile opinion show, and I can say what I want to. This is my opinion, and I ain't got a guest to answer to tonight. This is Chris's letting it all hang out moment, but this is a damn invasion, and there ain't no other nation in this world, none, that allows this kind of stupidity to go on. And there ain't a nation in this world that would allow it to go on without doing something to stop it. But instead of us stopping it, we're supporting it. And then, to add insult to injury, you have a sovereign democracy in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East, that gets attacked on October the 7th by a brutal terrorist group. And instead of America doing the right thing and taking ourselves over there to help Israel fight her enemy, we basically try to handcuff her and cut her aid off and say, you can't go into Rafah, that's a red line, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need to worry about civilians. And we didn't say a blanking thing to Hamas about the civilians. They butchered, tortured, raped, burned, murdered, and the babies and the kids and the adults and the grandmoms and the grandfathers. We didn't say anything like that to Hamas, and we still haven't said anything like that to Hamas, but we're always telling Israel, you've got to watch out for civilian casualties. And then you have an economy that you can't go to the grocery store and get one bag of groceries without you better be having about $100 in your hand or more to get 8 items at the grocery store. Gas is jumping back up. I watched this week. Spring break is going on in the country, and gas has shot up to $3.50, $4 a gallon again. Don't surprise me if by Easter next week or the week after it's going to get to $5 in some states. And you folks in the Northeast, you better be getting your wallet out. You better pucker up because you're about to, I was about to say something crude. I won't say what I was about to say. All I got to say is you better pucker up because what's about to happen in your wallet ain't going to be pleasant. And with the gas in California and these blue states that all these taxes are taxed. I was talking to somebody and we're trying to get the lady on about the taxes, the tax situation. Most people are not getting anywhere close to the refunds they've gotten in years past. A lot of people are having to pay taxes this year. The tax situation is like folks, the freaking colonists, we pour tea in the Boston Harbor over less taxation than we're under tonight to get the British out of our business. And we literally led a revolt against less taxation by the British than we're under tonight. And then this perversion that's running our streets, this criminal element that's running our street, this crime wave. You can't walk to your mailbox without getting knifed. You can't let a kid out of your sight 3 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot. I was in a restaurant with my family last night, and the little one of the grandkids, Brandon, had walked away from the table, and he took off. And his mom, rightfully so, looked at him and said, does Brandon know he's running? And it was a big restaurant, and I got up. I was getting ready to go because I was getting concerned because you can't trust people. And even a little 5-minute, 3-minute interval where a child takes off about 10 feet from his daddy is dangerous. That's how dangerous this society has become. And a lawless one at that. corruption like we've never seen it. One set of justice for one group, one set of justice for another, a third set of justice for another. You get money, you get off in the courts. You don't have money, you spend your time in jail. Peter Navarro, I'm grieved tonight. Peter Navarro, Trump's assistant, wasn't even given a time to stay out of jail to appeal his case. Trump's having a problem raising $454 million bond. Letitia James threatening to seize his assets over a sham bullshit trial that nobody got hurt, but it's just a civil situation that she's threatening all these things just to destroy Trump and bankrupt him over a sham trial that even the liberals in New York are telling the New Yorkers, keep your butt out of here if you're a business person, because they're going to do it to you too. And folks, we've never been at a lower place morale-wise and spiritual-wise and soul-wise. I ain't got to the church yet. And that's what I'm about to read to you tonight, because there was a Pew survey I want to read to you tonight about all this. And I want you to listen to this article tonight. It says, that's not the one, that's the election. Congratulations to Marino. But I want you to look at this. A strong majority of U.S. adults believe religion is losing its influence in public life, a new Pew Research Center survey found. Over 80%, I want you to look at this, 80% of U.S. adults say religion's role in American life is shrinking, a percentage that's as high as it's ever been. Nearly half say the decline of religious influence in public life is a bad thing. 8% say religious influence is growing and this is good. Only 8% say that. Only 6% say religious influence is growing and this is bad. And 13% say religious influence is shrinking and this is good. A little over 1 in 5 Americans feel neutral about religious influence on public life, the poll found. 3% say it's growing and this doesn't make a difference, while 18% says it's declining and it doesn't make a difference. Other polls in recent years have found that Americans perceive a decrease in religious influence and place less value on their children sharing their religious views. Other polls show that church attendance and general belief in God has dropped in the U.S. during the past few years. A Wall Street Journal NORC poll in March of 23 notably found that the percentage of Americans who said patriotism, religious faith, family, and other traditional American values are very important was on the decline. While 49% of the respondents says, I know God really exists and I have no doubts about it, get this, only 39% said religion is very important to them. Religion saw a perceptive decline in ranking of importance. 62% of Americans said religion was very important. While in 1998, that was in 1998, a sentiment that tumbled down to 48% just in 2019. That's a 20% drop almost before hitting 2023's low percentage of 40%. Younger respondents were less likely to rank religion as very important to them than seniors, 31 to 55%. Republicans were also more likely than Democrats and independents to say religion is very important. The Pew Research poll was conducted with 12,693 people between February the 13th and the 25th of 2024. The margin sampling error is 1.5%. Now, we put that article up on our website. I want to come back over here and I want to say a couple of things about that, and then I'm going to get you to chime in on this tonight. I read that article and I'm a little mixed because I guess a lot of it depends on how people define religion. I would argue in some ways that religion is part of the issue with our nation. Faith and religion are two different things. True faith in Christ and true faith in true blue, loving, compassionate, merciful Christianity is one thing. Self-righteous, bigoted, slandering, gossiping religion, Inquisition style, is another. These denominations, these churches have become so cold. People don't feel at home in churches anymore. I've had people tell me on this network that one of the reasons they watch our face shows on Sunday is that they don't care about going to church. We don't encourage that. We don't tell people not to go to church. I feel like you need to find a good church, but the truth of the matter is a lot of people can't. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's an easy journey to find a fellowship where faith, true faith, is exhibited, because the truth of the matter is people are mean as hell, and church people are meaner than hell, and that's just the reality of it. But the country, one of the reasons we're losing morale and we're losing our soul and we're losing our spiritual soul and spirit is that very thing I just said, that the church has lost its salt. The church has lost its light. The true church has. The true church hasn't. Let me change that. The apostate church has taken over America. Don't ever make the mistake of viewing Christianity through the eyes of America. The American church is gloated. The American church is rich. It is increased with goods. The American church is prideful. The American church is boastful. It's arrogant. It stands almost in a place that it is become a glorified psych ward. And I don't mean that to be funny. We become nothing more than a psychology camp for people. We become nothing more than a catch-em-all club. In other words, a little country club on Sunday, a little clique. And that's all churches are. That's what people come to on Sunday. And if you're part of the clique, you love it. But if you're not part of the clique, you get nothing out of it. And that's why people fall away from faith. And I look at this Pew Research Center poll. And again, a lot depends on how they're defining religion. Because that kind of religion on the decrease, I'm okay with it being on the decrease. Because that ain't going to save our country. But faith is a different issue, and I'm afraid that faith is also on the decrease as well. And I want to say this to you on this Tuesday night, folks, and we're going to take your questions here in a minute. We can't lose faith. I know things are bad out there tonight. I know things are very turbulent. They're very perilous. The Apostle Paul told us in 2 Timothy chapter 3, he said, "This know also in the last days, perilous times will come, dangerous times will come." We're in a dangerous time tonight. We're in a dangerous time tonight. I just took a glance at Breitbart tonight, and I just shake my head at the headlines, at the crime and the corruption and the situation in Haiti that has gone to chaos, and it's trickling over to America. The situation along our border, the rape, the murder, the criminality, the lawlessness, the streets, Philadelphia being turned into a war zone, the cities, Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, Brooklyn, all of these towns and cities of the Northeast being turned into literal war zones, because we lack confidence in our institutions, and we lack confidence in our faith, and we're losing faith. I don't really care about losing religion, because religion is part of the problem. Religion is part of the problem. But faith is a different issue, folks. We cannot lose our faith. We can't lose our faith in God. And I'm going to tell you this tonight. We can't lose our faith in each other. You know, we're in this together. Jesus himself said it. He said, "A house divided against itself will fall." And he said, even Satan's kingdom, if that's Satan's kingdom's divided, Satan's kingdom will not survive. And Satan's kingdom is very united in what it seeks to do to destroy this country. It's God's people that always tend to divide themselves over the pettiest things, and the most childish things that you could ever imagine, that people get offended at and people have an issue with, and the dirt that they want to eat and the dirt they inhale and the things that they wind up dividing over. Folks, it is the pettiest thing in the scope of what's going on in the world and the nation tonight. Our families are divided, our churches are divided, friendships are divided, Everything seems to be divided. Nobody can get along. Let me tell you something. Without a nation in unity to save America, America cannot be saved. And you say, well, there's a few of us out here that want it. Well, maybe there is a few. It's got to be more than a few that want to save this country if this country is going to be saved. And we've got to stop losing faith in each other, because that is happening as well. It's what happened in the 1970s and the 1980s under Carter. We were losing faith in every institution we had. We lost it in government. We lost it in the financial markets. Our economy was tanking. It's what's happening tonight. We lost it in law enforcement. The riots that were going on in the 70s. We saw riots there, just like we're seeing riots in this time. We have no faith in law enforcement. We have no faith in anything. And folks, there's nothing worse. There is nothing worse than to see a nation implode in itself that has lost faith in God and lost faith in itself. And I see that happening. It's one of the reasons we do the McFiles. It's one of the reasons we're on here every night, trying to encourage you, trying to bring people on to encourage you, trying to bring people on to at least give a little hope that I know America's bad, I know things are bad, but there's a glimmer of hope if we can keep our faith intact. Because we've lost it. We've lost it. And let me say this about faith. Faith is not presumption. And faith is not this belief in a pie-in-the-sky scheme or a pie-in-the-sky QAnon fantasy or some kind of fantasy that the white hats are in charge, or some kind of faith that God's going to throw pixie dust on America and fix everything for us, and we've got no role in this, we got no responsibility in this, and we've got no accountability in this, but God's going to throw pixie dust on everybody and everybody's going to fall down and everything's going to be worked out for us. That's not how it works, folks. It's not how it works. Let me tell you something. Those people in Ohio tonight that went to the poll and voted for Bernie Moreno, that's how it works. God works through those that do what they have been called to do and to do what they are supposed to do. If the people in Ohio would have sit at home tonight, they'd have had a rhino as a Republican candidate. But the people of Ohio didn't. They went out and voted. And God blessed their efforts. And Bernie Moreno is going to be their next senator. I believe that. And if we will do our part, President Donald John Trump will be our next president. I know Trump ain't going to sprinkle pixie dust on this no more than I expect the Lord to sprinkle pixie dust on it, folks. I love the Lord. I have faith in the Lord. The Lord can fix this with a blink of, not even a full blink of his eye. He could just twitch and the whole situation in America could be rectified. But that is not how God handles nations. It's never been how he's handled them. It never will be how he's handled them. I want to say this as we get ready to wrap this up. We got about 7 minutes, 15 minutes or so, I don't know, 7 to 10. I'm going to take your questions. Just bear with me. We were talking this morning on the Bible study. I really encourage you to be with us on these Bible studies. Good stuff. We were talking about the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah. How one of our dear listeners had asked a question, Mark Rare, he asked a question of how did God know that Sodom and Gomorrah had gotten so wicked? Because it says in Genesis 19 that when the wickedness had come up before his nostrils, that he went down to see for himself how wicked the cities had become. And we were sharing how it was through those angels that he sent those angels down there. Abraham had been told by God. God went to Abraham of all people and he said, should I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? And you can find that in Genesis 18 and 19, the story. And God told Abraham what he was going to do in Sodom. And Abraham had told the Lord, said, Lord, I got a nephew down there and you cannot, please don't destroy that city. I got a nephew down there and his family. And Abraham began to intercede for Sodom like he had never interceded for it before. And he got God to agree that if he could just find 5 righteous souls, if just 5 were righteous down there in that city, that he would spare it. And God is not a man that he should lie or repent. He would have changed his mind. God does change his mind by our intercession. We can move his heart if we're sincere in what we're praying for and not trying to do it to destroy people. but we're interceding for the good of our country, and we're interceding for the good and God's will to be done in our nation. God can change his mind. And that's why there's hope for our country tonight still, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I want to talk about Sodom for a minute. And God went down through those angels, and when those angels got into that city, it's somewhat clear through Bible interpreters and commentators that I've read behind that those people in Sodom were very aware that these two men that were down there were not just normal men. They knew they were angels. And the story goes in Genesis 19 that they told Lot, they went to Lot, who was the righteous remnant, and they said, you got to get out because there's judgment that's been declared on this city. And while they were down there, these men of Sodom, they attempted to have sex. We're adults here on a Tuesday night, and that's where we get the word sodomy. And I don't have to tell you what that means. I don't have to draw that Farian crown or talk to you about the birds and the bees. You're very well what that is. It's sexual relations between two men. And they wanted to have those kind of relations with these angels. And the angels literally had to bind the men of Sodom to keep them from busting that door down. And they told Lot, they said, get your family and get out of Sodom, because there has been judgment declared on the city, and we cannot move until you're gone. Until you're gone. And Lot's son-in-laws mocked him. They absolutely mocked him. They would not go. Noah got 8 families on the ark. Lot couldn't get but 4 to come with him out of Sodom. Him, his 2 daughters, and his wife. So I'd really say 3. He only got 3. Noah got all 8. Our families are sometimes the worst to convince of the truth, sadly. But those angels told him one thing, and one thing alone. Whatever you do, don't look back. Lot obeyed that. His daughters obeyed that. But the woman, she decided that she knew more than God. And she turned around. And as God was raining fire and brimstone upon those 2 cities, she turned into a pillar of salt. Now, what does all that mean for us tonight? Sodom and Gomorrah had no Bible. We've got millions. Sodom and Gomorrah had no churches. We've got religion on every corner. It's not changed the society. Sodom and Gomorrah had no gospel light. You turn on the internet, you turn on a television network, there's not a cable system out there that doesn't have hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of Christian programs on every single day, blaring their version of the gospel. Most of it's false, but at least blaring something about God over it. And the nation's barometer is not being moved one bit. Not one bit. Oh, there's pockets here and there, maybe of a little move of God here and there, but we're not seeing a turn to God corporately by this country. If anything, we're seeing it get worse and worse, and more lawless, and more evil, and more corrupt. And the remnant keeps getting smaller by the day, because we're losing faith. And we're turning on each other instead of turning to God and loving each other with all of our heart and soul and mind right now, and coming together in faith. Notice I didn't say religion. I said faith. There's a difference. The late Billy Graham, he said it before he died. And he said this: if God spares this country for what we're doing right now against light. You see, light was the only light that Sodom and Gomorrah had. America has 1,000,000 times more light given to it. You want to know why some of these third world countries do some of the most despicable, cannibalistic, bestiality, most perverse things in the world, and you don't see any judgment hardly fall on those countries? I mean, they're basically giving up to their own darkness, but there's no judgment you can really see happening to them. They don't have the light we've got. They're going to be held accountable. It doesn't mean God is not displeased with what he sees in those nations. He's very displeased with it. He's angry with the wicked every day. Blessed is the nation whose nation is the Lord, and the nations that forget God will be turned into hell. That is a promise in Psalms that cannot be changed, and that is a promise for all eternity. The scary part of this nation tonight, folks, it has lost its moral compass and lost its soul and has lost its spirit, is we've done this in the face of the greatest blessing and the greatest light any nation has ever been given. You realize that tonight? This nation has been blessed more than any other nation on the face of the earth, bar none, except Israel. Except Israel. And when we turn our back on God, we're not just turning our back in a third world country that has no knowledge of God. It's not like we don't know what we're doing. We know what we're doing and we're still doing it. It's like I said this morning. It ain't like we can't worship God in America. We don't want to worship God in America. It ain't like we can't read a Bible in America. We don't want to read our Bibles in America. It ain't like we can't worship Jesus in America. It's that we don't want to worship Jesus in America as a whole, the nation as a whole, and the spiritual leadership of this country that has turned its back on God as well and has stopped preaching the truth. And we're just as culpable in the demise of this nation as the nation itself. We are probably more culpable and more responsible for the spiritual decline and the demise than even the people out there in the John Q. public, because they've had no light. The light they've listened to has been false light. And Jesus said, if that light in you be darkness, then how great is that darkness? This ain't a faith show tonight, but I'm giving you a little faith nugget as I leave on this Tuesday night. We're doing these things against light. We're doing what we're doing in full-blown daylight with no conscience, with no feeling of any remorse whatsoever. And no, folks, let me tell you something. There's never been an empire of the past, the present, or anyone in the future that does such things that these nations have done in the past. And this one is doing it far worse than anything the nations of the past probably could have been involved in. They didn't have the light we've got today. We've got the full-blown revelation of the Bible, the full-blown revelation of Christ. We've got the full-blown revelation of God's plan. We've got the full-blown revelation of God, and we still do it. And we don't blink an eye doing it. And as Jeremiah once said in Jeremiah 8, we don't even blush about it no more. We've lost our soul. We've lost our soul. How do we get it back? We find our way back to God. And the way we find our way back to God is the pulpits find their way back to God. And the ministers of the gospel find their way back to God and start preaching the truth and teaching the truth and warning this nation of the consequences of the rejection of light. You know, Jesus said that all sin will be forgiven men, but the one sin that will never be forgiven is the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. The spiritual leadership of this country is as close to blaspheming the Holy Spirit as we've ever come. This nation has come as close to blaspheming the Holy Spirit as I think I've seen any nation ever done in the history of mankind. America is teetering into some dangerous, 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 dangerous grounds tonight and dangerous waters. And we've lost our soul doing it. And we had better find our character and our moral compass quickly, or there will be no United States of America. There will be no United States of America. All righty. Now, I have said my piece tonight. I have said my piece. We've got about 5 minutes, and we got 175 folks watching. We've got about 75 folks watching. We're good to see everybody. Grateful for all you folks that are here tonight. If you've got a statement, if you've got a question for us tonight, please put it in the house real quick. It's good to see everybody. Got a good crowd here tonight. Really good crowd tonight. Good to see a lot of Dory up tonight. All righty. Good to see. Good to see you. Congratulations to Mr. Marino in Ohio tonight. Now, we're at 51 minutes. I got 9 minutes, folks. I'm going 1 hour. I got 9 minutes. Put your question in. If you've got a question about the country, got a question about the elections, question about Trump, anything you want to say for 9 minutes, you got the floor. And I'll listen to you, and Cleo, if you would. Anything over in Facebook, put those questions in. Here it says that God will do things in his own time, not ours. Here he will, but he's not going to do things in his own time to fix a nation that don't want it fixed. I know you're down under in Australia. This goes for Australia too. This time and situation, we ain't got much time. The rapture of the church is about to take place. We're going to be in Waveland, Mississippi Friday night, and we're going to be speaking about the rapture, folks. Time is getting short. That's the other thing I really came on here to tell you tonight. We better get this done quickly, because God ain't going to sprinkle no pixie dust on the country. There ain't pixie dust coming from heaven. And I think we get this mental picture that that's how it's going to happen, that God is going to work everything out for us. He will not do that, folks, until we come to a place that we repent of who we are as a nation. He can't. He cannot jeopardize. Let me change that word. He will not ever break his word for the sake of a sinful nation that refuses to admit it's away from God. He's not going to bastardize his word for anybody. Anyway. If you got a question, question. Is this nation reprobate? Carol Smith, it is. Yes, we have become reprobate. I think Ricky Wilson used that word a couple of weeks ago. Very good question. A reprobate is an apostate. And Carol, the thing about a reprobate and an apostate is this. They know the truth. A reprobate is not somebody that doesn't know the truth. A reprobate is somebody that has once known the truth and they went back. An apostate is somebody that once knew God and they went back on the faith. They've renounced the faith. And you know, this is the once saved, always saved mentality, that people are once saved and they're never going to lose their salvation. Well, let me tell you something. Apostasy, pretty much, if you read the Bible and talks about people giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils and departing from the faith, which is the title of our new book that's coming out here soon, you can't depart from something that you didn't have. And a reprobate has become, and I would even add the definition, Carol, that a reprobate is somebody that don't have feeling. There's no feeling about the state that they're in. They don't even realize they are a reprobate. And that's what scares me with this country, folks. That's what scares me with our church leadership. We don't even know the state we're in. People don't even understand what state we're in. And the media tonight, they sure ain't going to tell you what state we're in, because they're loving this. They're loving this liberal hellhole we're living in. They eating this stuff up. And anybody that questions their liberal utopia is the haters and everything else. But we don't even understand how reprobate we've gotten. It's a good question. You're right. You're right. All right, you're down to 5 minutes. A reprobate is somebody that once knew the faith, Carol. They departed from the faith, but they've also departed from feeling. And there's no conscience. They have no barometer. They have no moral character, no moral compass whatsoever. In other words, I want y'all to, I'll give you a great example of something. Look, I'm a pet lover. I don't have a lot of pets. I don't have any really. But I have nothing against pets. But I've noticed a lot of commercials that push, if you pay $19 a month, you can help these animals that are out in the cold, and help these animals that are dying, and help these animals find shelter and homes. And they'll put these pictures of these poor looking dogs, and I'm not diminishing the poor looking dogs. Let me ask you a question. When have you seen a commercial on our airways that talk about the poor babies that have been butchered and slaughtered and like a bunch of meat in a meat factory in the wombs of mothers over the last 40 years in America, to the tune of 83 million babies? How many commercials have we seen that we need to spend $20 to $30, $40 a month helping stop abortion in this country and the killing of the babies? No, you don't see that. But we're worried about a dog. And I'm not saying it's not right, folks. It's not right to leave a dog out in the cold and misuse animals. So don't twist my freaking words like some like to do. But I'm telling you tonight, folks, we're caring more about animals and the blood of animals than we are the blood of babies. That is an apostate nation. 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 Gloria, it's going to take more than a day of repentance. I think we do need a day of repentance, but I think, Gloria, to be honest with you, there's a lot of us out here that aren't repenting. I mean, I think that the nation at large, I mean, there's a remnant that is repenting. There's a remnant that is praying. I mean, I know there's ministries out there that are still praying for this country. And I will tell you this, folks, tonight, and we're down to 3 minutes. Part of the reason that God has not moved greater in judgment against this country, and probably I would say Canada and I'd say Australia, he has stayed his hand a great deal because of people still praying and still standing before the Lord, like Abraham stood before the Lord for Sodom and saying, Lord, please help this nation and spare this nation. And he's given us time. He's given us a pause in what he probably wants to do and is declared to do, but he's hearing the prayers of the saints. 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 Anyway, let me just check one thing before I say goodnight, because I didn't want to let our Facebook friend. Dennis, is there anything to this eclipse that is coming April the 8th? Well, we had one back in 2014 or 2017, and I saw that one, and I'll probably see this one. Eclipses are celestial events. I'm not going to say there's nothing to it, but I wouldn't over spiritualize it either. I think it's an interesting event, and I put it like this, Dennis. It's prophetic to me that America's got a choice. We can either let the sun set on us in judgment, or we can let the sun rise on us in blessing. A lot of that depends on us, because that sun going dark is a prophetic picture of the darkness that is descending upon this nation. And that's just my take on that eclipse on April the 8th. On April the 8th. Just 2 weeks coming up here. We're about to enter into a very prophetic season, though, folks. I will tell you, these feast days, we don't worship the feast, but I will tell you that I do believe that there is an increase in prophetic activity and satanic activity, too, that fights against the Lord during these times. And you've got Purim coming up this weekend, and you've got Passover coming up the 22nd of April. But we need to be praying. We need to be praying. Folks, let me remind you tonight as we close, Waveland, Mississippi, this weekend, the 22nd and the 23rd of March, we're going to be having a beautiful prophecy conference at the Lutheran Church of the Pines. And we've got the outlines already done today. We've got the PowerPoints ready to go. We got the handouts for Friday night. Saturday we'll have an all-day event, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And we encourage you to be with us. And we hope you can come be with us if you're in the Gulf Coast area of the country, southeast. And then in April, we'll be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we've had some invitations come to us today. One from Philadelphia, and Brooklyn's begging us to come back. And up in the Midwest area, we're going to be up there again. But wherever the Lord leads us, where we're going. And we're going to do one of these a month, I think, one every month, if we can. The Lord will help us do them. I do want to tell you, thank you all for your donations. We appreciate those. We've got this conference coming up, and if you'd like to help us with some of the expense, because these are free, we don't charge people for them. But if the Lord lays something on your heart to help us with them, please remember us, paypal.me/themcfiles or cash.app/themcfiles, P.O. Box 50942, Knoxville 37950. And we appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. May the Lord bless you is our prayers. And may we find our way back to God. And may we find our soul again and our spirit. And may we find our way to care for each other again. Folks, we all we got right now, we the people and God. That's about it. And if we lose our faith in each other, this nation is going to go down in flames. And we've got to start believing in each other again and look for the best in people and not the worst. And uplift people and encourage people and find a common ground on all things and be the lovingest, caringest people that this world has ever seen and be the remnant that God's called us to be in this last hour. And I believe we can do that and still see hope for a revival in this country before Jesus comes back. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. I will see you on the Faith Network in the morning on our Bible study. Please come join us for that. And I will see you tomorrow night. Now, Vijaya may or may not be with us tomorrow night, but he will be with us soon from India. And we got some great news to share with you tomorrow night on Wednesday night Bible study. We will be here for Bible study tomorrow night on the Church of Philadelphia. So please be with us for that. And then I will see you then. May the Lord bless you all tonight. If you enjoyed the show, put some fire in that house for us. HoosierWarriorCoffee.com/MacFiles. I don't have the logo up here tonight because I'm on remote with the laptop. But please remember that. That's Natalie Corbin's coffee company. They're a great sponsor of the show. And when you donate and buy some of that good roasted coffee, if you coffee lovers out there like some good coffee, go get some Hoosier Warrior coffee. You can't beat it. Great family, and it helps the McFiles stay on the air too. I'll see you tomorrow, another day of shows, and then Thursday night we'll have Ruth Gutenheim right here on the McFiles News Network, and I'll see you in Mississippi with 2 S's and 2 P's. I think that's right. I was horrible at spelling. I'll see you in Waveland. I know I can spell that one, and I'll see you this weekend down there at a prophecy conference. Until then, McDonald out on a Tuesday night, the 19th day of March. Congratulations to Bernie Marino. We love you guys tonight. Pray for your country, folks. And keep the faith out there. Keep the faith. I'll see you later. Have a good night, everybody.